Every morning the world starts quietly, one soft light at a time. Homes flicker awake, shops open. People take those first small steps into a brand new day. And in all of that ordinary movement, there's something kind of extraordinary. A moment worth noticing, a spark you feel before you even name it. Sometimes it's quiet, sometimes it's small, but kindness shows up right on time. And every morning we choose to show up with you so we can look for that spark together.
Good morning. I'm Matt Roof, the Uncommon Kindness Guy, and this is Kindness Rising. Let's rise together.
Yes, indeed, it is true. This is Kindness Rising, your morning dose of humanity, hope, and heart, with more high fives for you, a little less rage bait, less cynicism, less anger. What a wild weekend it was. We'll get to that, but we are live today, this Monday morning, July 13th. Let's get up and get after it. Remember, kindness is not soft. It's a strategy. So let's rise. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Who is in the house? Jess, Kathy, and Mike. Never without our friends, Jess, Kathy, and Mike. Thank you so much. Jess, did you get to Dylan? I hope so. Kathy, I've seen your stuff out there. And Sully, I appreciate the support that you sent me in the chat and LinkedIn. This is what we're building: friendships, curiosity, interest in each other as we get up and get going every weekday morning, 7:30 a.m. Eastern, right here on Kindness Rising and the Mornings in the Lab Network. And this week, we're starting a new chapter. Last week, we talked about showing up real. This week is Speak Truth with Love. Speak truth with love, and today's lesson is where honest conversation must begin. Trust before truth. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Kindness Rising. All right, we're getting up and after it on a Monday morning. I hope everyone had a great weekend. Absolutely. You didn't go. Okay. You had your own concert, which is great. I love creating instead of consuming. So there's your silver lining in that. You tell me you sing. You talk about music all the time, Jess, but I haven't seen you. Maybe we'll play together sometime. This is Kindness Rising. Welcome in. Join Jess, join Mike, join Kathy, join Keith, join me, Matthew Roof, every weekday morning, 7:30 a.m. Eastern, getting up and after it. Let me ask you one simple question. Have you ever noticed the exact same words can feel completely different depending on who says them? Someone looks at you and says, "Can I give you some honest feedback?" And maybe you lean forward a little bit. You're like, yeah, you care about me. I want to know what's going on. You want something good for me. I may not enjoy what you have to say, but I'm willing to hear it. Then someone else comes to you and says, "Can I give you some honest feedback?" Frozen. Every muscle in your body tightens. Same words, different relationship. Because before we decide whether someone's words are true, we usually decide whether that person feels safe. Last week, we talked about showing up real and taking off the armor. But when we show up honestly, something else eventually happens. Someone sees something in us that we didn't see in ourselves. Remember the Johari window we talked about last week, the blind spot? Sometimes they see strength. Sometimes they see something we need to work on, and sometimes they see something that's simply just not working yet, but they have a choice. Do they tell us? Do they stay quiet? Or do they have, and most importantly, do they have enough trust for the truth to be heard? I've heard it's not about what you said, but how you said it. That is true, Jess. I appreciate that 100%. Sully, are you inside my head? A community that cares about each other, the anecdote about the joke. Yep, that's today. We're moving into chapter 2, and that's where that joke resides. So let's just keep rolling with it this morning. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Yes, I must be bright, because my father called me Sonny. That zinger, that's actually one of my father's jokes, and it sits in my brain alongside this collection of puns and one-liners, bad jokes, weird references, and phrases that he planted in my head without considering the long-term consequences. My father actually loved humor. He always had a good story. He could turn an ordinary interaction with customers, employees, a waitress, some guy he met in line at the grocery store into a 10-minute comedy routine. He understood comic timing and self-deprecation for sure. Absolutely. And he understood that sometimes laughter was the best way to release the pressure building inside of a room. So naturally, as his son, I must have inherited this wonderful gift. So let's travel back together, back to the 1980s. I was about 12 years old. I'm a young comedian, I guess. I'll shout you out, Dallas. Welcome, Dallas. Welcome to Kindness Rising. I'm telling my story of the joke that didn't quite land. In the 1980s, I'm sitting there. I'm about 12 years old. I'm thinking, okay, this is my chance to really break out. Absolutely. And I start working on some material that probably wasn't included in the curriculum at St. Thomas Aquinas Elementary School, if you understand what I'm saying. Learning from Saturday Night Live and Comic Strip Live, comedians like Robin Williams and Steve Martin and Richard Pryor, people who could walk onto a stage with nothing but a microphone and completely command the room. So at 12 years old, I'm like, I can do that. I can do that. I had already spent years speaking into my Sesame Street cassette recorder, making up commercials and characters, and I learned that thrill, the thrill of listening to my own voice. That's what I love. And the next logical step was obvious for me. It was stand-up comedy. So I consumed my growing collection of adult humor and double entendres and jokes I didn't entirely understand, and I developed what I considered to be my first piece of real material. Every comedian needs an audience, though, so I found my dad, the man whose laugh I wanted more than anyone else. If I could make Dad laugh, I knew I had something. He had probably just spent 12 hours dealing with unreasonable customers and demanding employees, business problems, family responsibilities, all the pressures that come with being the person that people depend on. He was decompressing, and I walked into the room for my debut. I stood in front of him, and I said, hey, Dad, did you hear Ronald McDonald got fired today? He got caught with his Big Mac in Wendy's Hot and Juicy. Get it? Hot and juicy. Dad just looked at me, sat up, stared, cleared his throat, and simply said this, Matthew, I don't get it. And I wouldn't repeat it either because you don't want people to think you're stupid. There it was. My first review, not exactly the standing ovation that I had imagined. I stood there, was confused and turning over the wreckage in my mind like, did I really just bomb my first gig? Yes, spectacularly, I had bombed it. And the redirect stung, not because my father yelled at me, not because he mocked me. It stung because his opinion mattered to me. When we're young, the people we love hold an enormous amount of power. A sentence from a stranger can disappear before lunch, but a sentence a parent gives you can remain inside you for 40 years. So I filed that joke away. I did not repeat it. And like most 12-year-olds, I just went on about my adventure, but I never forgot that moment. The joke, waiting for it, the stare from my father, the clearing of the throat, and the feeling that the person that I trusted most had just told me something I was not ready to hear. Eventually, I would understand that conversation very differently, but not for a long time, because sometimes the light bulb, it doesn't come on immediately. Sometimes it takes decades before we learn to look at the light right. That's my story of the Wendy's Hot and Juicy. If I had one message I would tell my younger self, what would I say? Great question Dallas is asking. This is a good question for everybody. Dallas, I'm glad you're here. Yep. So there it is. There's the question. Tell your younger self, what would you say? I love that question. Be brave. That's a good one, Jess. I like your choice. I would say follow your heart. Follow your heart. That's what I'm doing right now, following my heart more than my head a little bit. But yeah, follow your heart. Do what you love. All right, let's stop screwing around with all this, though. We have important business to get to here on Kindness Rising. That was a great question, Dallas, and I appreciate your participation. Please come back, subscribe to the channel, join us here every weekday morning at 7:30 a.m. All right, there it is. First clue. Thank you. Hey, Cheryl Whitaker's in there. It starts with Joy Live. That's Cheryl Raphael Whitaker. Join her 8:30 in the morning every Wednesday for an awesome bit of dancing and insight and motivation. I love Cheryl's show. 8:30 Wednesday morning. It starts with Joy Live. All right, there it is. There's your first clue. Anybody know this from this silly clue? Who in the world? A species of ant and a species of spider have both been named in his honor. Unusual, to say the least. To say the least. All right. There's our first clue. And after our first clue, we do our spotlight. Every weekday morning, we highlight an organization doing good work for good people. And today is, of course, no different. Today, we are talking about this very organization right here. Maybe. It's an organization called Search for Common Ground, and their mission is to transform the way people deal with conflict, moving away from violence and adversarial thinking and towards trust and collaboration. Of course, I love that idea. That's what we're doing here. They do not begin with the assumption that conflict itself is always the problem. Conflict is actually part of being human. We have different experiences, different interests, different fears and beliefs. Absolutely. But the question we have to ask is not whether conflict will happen. It's what we'll do when it arrives. Do we become so committed to defeating one another that we forget the original problem? Or can we build enough trust to remain curious? Search for Common Ground works with people in communities facing serious division. That doesn't mean pretending disagreements are small or avoid conflicts, uncomfortable truths. They just help people identify their shared interest. Understanding that truth is almost impossible to hear when people see one another as an enemy. And that, of course, connects directly to our lesson today. Sometimes trust simply means, I believe you will hear me. I believe you will treat me with dignity. And I believe we can remain in the conversation long enough to find the next step. That's what Common Ground does. Not softness, a strategy for building a future people can share. All right. Search for Common Ground. Check them out. That is today's spotlight. Common Ground. I love that. I love anything that opens up our ideas. Gary Larson, great guess. Kathleen, Kathy, the donkey. Welcome, buddy. But no, it's not Gary Larson. I love Gary Larson, though. Anybody know Gary Larson? The Far Side cartoons? Great stuff. Some of the funniest insights out there. All right. Let's move on. It's not Gary Larson, but I love that you took a stab at it. Wait. That happened today? Yep. July 13th. 1787. The Confederation Congress adopted the Northwest Ordinance. Another boring history lesson, the Northwest Ordinance. What the heck is this? Wake me up. No, seriously, it may sound like a textbook topic that you want to glaze over, but it shaped the future of the United States. The country needed to decide what would happen to the territory northwest of the Ohio River. It created a system of government and a path for new territories to become states equal to the original 13. That land, we're talking about Ohio, Indiana, Illinois, Michigan, Wisconsin, Minnesota, small chunk of land. It also encouraged, what was really important is not just about land, it was about encouraging education and certain civil liberties and prohibition of slavery in that territory. Of course, the story is more complicated. That land was not empty. Indigenous nations already lived there, their communities, their governments, their traditions, and deep connections to the land. So while the ordinance created a path towards statehood, it also supported westward expansion that brought displacement, broken agreements, and violence. But both of those truths belong to that story because it raises questions that we still wrestle with. Who gets included when the rules are written, and what voice matters? And can people trust a system if they expect to live with decisions they had no role in making? Strong communities need structure, but structure alone does not create trust. Trust grows when people believe the rules, that they are fair, and that promises will be honored and voices matter. And that's what happened on July 13th, 1787. Welcome into Kindness Rising. Subscribe to the channel, say hello to us, get involved in the comments, in the chats where people are guessing our who in the world. And we are about to get to our second clue. We'll have 3 clues throughout the episode. We've done 1. Here it is. This is clue 1. A species of ant and a species of spider have both been named in his honor. All right. Well, if he's into ants and spiders, he probably is into wood as well. Wood? Would you? Before acting paid the bills, he built cabinets for several well-known Hollywood clients. A carpenter who had ants and spiders named after him. Those are our first 2 clues here at Kindness Rising. Yep, 1 more clue will be coming up for sure. A little water to quit the whistle. I'm a terrible whistler. I like it. When you're missing a tooth, it's hard to whistle. What I'm trying to work on, this is as random as it gets, being able to put my lip underneath here and create a whistle with my hole. Can't get there though. Someday, maybe I'll have an amazing musical instrument and I'll get on stage with Jess and I'll whistle and she'll sing and we'll be the amazing duo. I don't know. We'll see. Research Corner. We're moving in. We're changing subjects, moving from whistling to without a net. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Welcome. Yep. Research tells us what's true. Without a net helps us put it to work. And this week on Without a Net, we're moving from authenticity into honesty. Last week, we asked, can people bring their real selves into the room? This week, we're asking, once they're there, can they tell one another the truth? Patrick Lencioni. That's who I'm leaning in today. I've talked about him before. I'm going to talk about him today, too. He begins with the foundational problem. The foundational problem of all teams that are having problems is the absence of trust. Not strategy, not intelligence, not talent, just trust. And not the kind of trust that says, yeah, I know you'll show up on time or you'll finish that spreadsheet. Healthy teams need something deeper, vulnerability-based trust, the kind that allows people to say, I made a mistake. I need help. I don't understand. How about what you said hurt me? Without that trust, people protect themselves and they hide weakness and they avoid asking questions. They just manage their appearances instead of contributing what they know. And when people do not trust the room, they don't stop having those opinions. They just relocate them. Parking lot, maybe a private text thread or a dinner at home, sharing with their spouse. Everyone knows something's wrong. Nobody says where the decision is being made. That is not harmony. That is silence wearing a pleasant expression. And this is why trust must become the truth. Because beneath every piece of feedback is another question. Why are you telling me? To embarrass me? To control me? To win an argument? Or because you actually care about the work, the relationship, and maybe even care about me? Truth without trust feels like an attack. Truth inside a trustworthy relationship, though, that becomes a gift, even when it stings and even when it takes 40 years to recognize the light inside it. All right. Yep. Trust before truth. Trust before truth. Absolutely. And it all has to start there. And like I said, it's the vulnerability part of the trust. Not I trust you're going to do the job. That's just given. That's essential. That's what you're doing. That's what you're doing when you're on a team. You're doing your work. You're doing the job. But I trust you enough to share my concerns, my questions, my fears and anxieties. And I feel safe in doing that. That's what we're talking about. Real vulnerability-based trust. All right. Well, time is flying here, and I've got more content than I can possibly deliver before 8 o'clock. So give me a second to figure out what's going on. I was so excited over the weekend. I was writing, and thinking about the Without a Net program, and I get excited. And this is particularly this chapter about trust, the Patrick Lencioni stuff. This is what I'm really light up about. It's what matters to me. And of course, we're connecting it to a Grateful Dead lyric, and I'll do that quickly here, and then we'll talk about it again some other time. This week's song, last week we did Help on the Way, right? This is Scarlet, Begonias. Once in a while, you get shown the light in the strangest of places if you look at it right. Sometimes a strange place is a meeting. Sometimes it's a mistake, and sometimes it's feedback from the person you least expected to teach you anything. Sometimes it's your father just clearing his throat at 12 years old, when you're 12 years old. I heard rejection, but that was only the first interpretation. We're going to stay with this story all week because the meaning changed. The light was there. I just didn't know how to look at it yet. And that's true of so much of our feedback. Absolutely. Of feedback that we receive. We focus on the delivery, and sometimes the delivery is really poor, without considering whether part of the truth might still help us to grow. So then we have to ask ourselves, what part of this is true? What part is my interpretation? What might this person see that okay, hello. What might this person see that I cannot? What do I know about their intention? And is this relation strong enough for us to explore it honestly? That's trust before truth, relationship before redirect, care before correction, not because the truth doesn't matter, but because it matters too much to deliver carelessly. All right. Clue number 3. Get a clue, Matt, for clue number 3. Are we ready? Anybody have any other guesses? We had Gary Larson, which I loved that guess. The species of ant and spider might give you that, and a carpenter. But we're talking about a Hollywood actor. I'm not sure Gary Larson. Is Gary Larson still alive? I don't know. But I don't think he ever acted. But let's review our clues again and keep it rolling. Species of ant and a species of spider have both been named in his honor. He paid the bills by building cabinets for several well-known Hollywood clients. And lastly, the one that I know there's going to be people, we've talked about him before, but not in this context. He played an archaeologist, a space smuggler, a futuristic detective, and the President of the United States. I think those clues from some of his most famous roles will probably have Mike Sullivan just jumping in. Was that your guess, Jess? You said you had one, but you were waiting for the last clue. Was that your guess before the last clue? I know the carpenter thing is something that's been talked about a lot. Yeah. He was in the what? In the film Heroes? I don't think I know Heroes. Yeah, the carpenter thing. I try to make him a little bit Henry Winkler. All right. I like that. I'll check it out. I like Henry Winkler, the Fonz. Hey. Hey. All right. Let's do our kindness compass. Then we'll get back to talking about Fonzie and Han Solo. All right. Kindness compass. Every day here on Kindness Rising, we like to move from thoughts to action. Thoughts to action. because we like to talk about things, but we have to move. We have to take action, take steps towards the direction. So let's put today's lesson into practice. Number one, get curious before you get corrective. Before telling someone what they did wrong, maybe ask them how they experienced the situation. You may discover information that changes the conversation. How about we try this? Walk me through what happened. What were you hoping would happen? What am I missing? Curiosity communicates that the person is more important than your first assumption. Number two, make a trust deposit before you need to make a withdrawal. Love that. Don't wait for the difficult conversation to show someone that you care. Notice their effort. Keep your commitments. Follow up when you say you will, and give people credit publicly. Trust is usually built in those small moments long before it's tested in a large one. And lastly, number three, check your intention. Before offering feedback, ask yourself, am I saying this to be helpful? Am I saying it to release my own frustration? Truth is spoken in anger. It may still contain facts, but facts delivered as weapons rarely create growth. Give yourself enough time to separate the message from the emotional charge. Then say what is true, clearly, directly, and with care. That's your kindness compass for today. Curiosity before correction, truth deposits before difficult withdrawals, and intention before intervention. That is today's kindness compass. All right, what are people saying? Share with those you want to share with you. Disclosure encourages disclosure. I agree 100%. As a leader, it starts with you being willing to be vulnerable, being open, saying, I don't know. I don't have all the answers. And then people can jump in with their answers or with their own fears. And that's how we address them together. Yep. All right. So Harrison Ford was our guy. He spent years struggling. Actually, he was told he would never be a leading man. And he took to carpentry to support himself. Some people do, these actors that go out to Hollywood, they wait tables, they do whatever they can to maybe get noticed. He was a carpenter, and he built cabinets for some Hollywood elite, actually. Yep. Despite early judgments, though, he became one of the most successful leading men, right? I mean, it's just crazy. And that's the lesson. Sometimes people offer us their version of the truth. Some feedback will help us and some will not, but wisdom is really learning the difference. Harrison Ford did that. He kept learning, kept building. First with wood, and then with his characters, and eventually with a career almost nobody saw coming. Today is his birthday. Happy birthday, Harrison Ford. All right. She did ask, where's the beef? I mean, are we going with Sally? That's funny. That's actually a good follow-up. Yeah, that was a ridiculous joke. And I'm pretty sure when I first spoke it, I didn't understand it. I'm sure I just heard somebody say it, and it got a lot of laughs, and then I repeated it, and yeah. I still remember standing right where I was, standing there, doing that. Yep. Felt like he was the only one that made it out of Star Wars successfully. With the original series, I don't know. I think some of the other actors in there. I mean, Carrie Fisher. She had some problems, of course, but Carrie Fisher did all right, and even Mark Hamill. Hey, Jerry Ginger, what's up, buddy? Even Mark Hamill. Mark Hamill is one of the most what's the word I'm looking for? Decorated voice actors. So many video games. That's what he's been doing, is video game voice acting, and he's got a lot to offer there. Anyway, that's it. A half hour went by. Bada boom, bada bing, just like that. What are you going to do about it? We're going to get on over to Mornings in the Lab with Keith, John, and friends and keep the train rolling for another great week. So let's pull everything together in today's one tiny, neat little thread. We began with a terrible joke, and yes, it was terrible. A 12-year-old boy walking into a room hoping to make his father laugh, and instead he received some honest reviews of his young comedian career. And at that age, I really only understood the sting. I didn't yet understand the relationship beneath it. And that's often how truth works. We hear the sentence today, but we understand the meaning later. Absolutely. And we're going to keep exploring this idea all week long. Tomorrow, we're going to look at that light in strange places, and we're going to talk about Kim Scott's idea of radical candor. This is absolutely. But for today, let's just remember this, that the truth matters. Trust determines where truth has somewhere to land. So build the relationships, make deposits, and stay curious. This has been Kindness Rising. I'm glad you're here. Come on back tomorrow morning, 7:30 a.m. Eastern with all of our friends. Have a great day, everyone. I'll see you tomorrow. Until then, stay uncommon and stay kind.